Grand rising, powerful beings. How's it going, everybody? As y'all can see here, we're reading the book "The Art of Communicating" by Thich Nhat Hanh, and it's been a journey so far. We've been going through the chapters repeatedly over time, and now we're on chapter 8. We're on chapter 8 of the book "The Art of Communicating" by Thich Nhat Hanh, where the author really talks about specific strategies and concepts to help you learn how to better communicate first with yourself and then with others, right? And it's really about helping yourself suffer less, helping each other suffer less. And chapter 8 talks about how our communication is our continuation, right? The way we communicate is how we continue life, is how we continue living, right? Because without communication, we won't be able to have this experience that we call life the way we think it is. Okay, so let's keep on tapping in with me here. I'm going to review the book, make sure I'm live on several platforms. Once again, you're watching the book review on YouTube, but this is part of the tribe, the Holistic Lifestyle Tribe. We have a book club called the Holistic Book Club, and the concept is simple. It's just that we meet each week. We bring about a book every month. We read the book and we discuss it together, and we apply what we're learning. Right. So once again, having different authors to teach us collectively is a different way of having multiple viewpoints, wearing different glasses, different lenses, so you can see a little bit differently. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Let's talk about chapter 8. Our communication is our continuation, right? The book says that every animal and human communicates. We typically think of communications as the words we use when we speak or write. Our body language, our facial expressions, our tone of voice, and our physical action, but even our thoughts are ways of communicating. Okay, so while we think communication is just the way we write and speak, it's actually physical action, thoughts, and even our tone of voice, and our body language and facial expressions, right? Just like a beautiful orange tree can produce beautiful orange leaves and blossoms and fruits, a beautiful human being can produce beautiful thoughts, speech, and actions. Okay, so what you communicate comes out what you cultivate. Let me repeat that again. Our communication is our continuation. What you communicate is on the basis of what you cultivated. Because the orange tree can produce beautiful orange leaves, blossoms, fruits. A beautiful human being can produce beautiful thoughts, speech, and actions. Our communication is not mutual. We can either produce more compassion or we can produce more suffering and violence. I want you to hear this. Our communication is not mutual. We can either produce more suffering or more compassion, love. So it's on the basis of what you cultivate that's going to determine how you communicate. If you cultivate a certain energy within you and you try to communicate differently, the energy you cultivated gonna come out. Which means if you left your energy alone and it became very angry or anxious or whatever, that's what's gonna come out. So somebody says, I want to be more peaceful. I want to communicate with more compassion, with more love to me and other people. But then your cultivation is adding pissed offness, frustration, and stress to your body all of the time. That's how you're gonna respond. Somebody who's a fast-paced person, they always have somewhere to go. Like they're always on the move. If they're not on the move, they feel like, man, I can't even live my life. This person that's always on the move, guess what? Even when you meet them, they're gonna give you that on the move energy. Like you might be talking to this person and you would think they're talking to you, but they're thinking about the next place that they're going to be. Now, somebody might ask or say, yo, what's wrong with this person? Why is this person like that? It's not that they're like that with you. It's just that they've cultivated certain energy within them that they're never in one place. So they might be here with you now, but they're going somewhere else really soon. right? So because they cultivated that certain energy, they bring about that energy everywhere they go. Okay. So that becomes the continuation of their self cultivation. So write this one down. Your communication is the continuation of your self cultivation. The way you cultivated yourself is the way you're going to present yourself when you express yourself. Which means if you spend a lot of time cultivating peace within you, when you speak, that peace is going to come out, right? People are going to feel that peace. It's almost like they're going to say that, yo, your word, you are so peaceful, because your very essence and aura will bring about that energy. So cultivate that peace, or cultivate a certain way of responding. If you cultivate love within you, you automatically going to communicate in a certain way, because it's hard to communicate with anger to, well, that's actually a lie. It's easier to communicate with anger to those we love. But when we have a sense of, man, I don't want this person to suffer, that's when we really don't communicate certain, we don't give certain vibes. It's because if you love somebody, that's not going to stop you from being angry. In fact, you're going to get angry with somebody you love more than somebody you don't like, because they're worth more of your anger. In your head, you're like, man, if I didn't care, I wouldn't be mad. But at the same time, if you really love this person, why would you give them that sort of food? It's like, why would we serve caviar to the stranger and we serve toxins to the person we love the most? Grand Rising. So we serve caviar to somebody we don't meet. We're like, man, this person is not worth it to get mad over. But then the person we love, we get mad at them every single day, not knowing that the way that anger, not only does it cause havoc in you, but anger also then is a certain energy that affects the other person. Anger is like throwing a wood at somebody or throwing something at somebody's head. And it's almost like you feel like somebody's throwing shots at you. And you're like, yo, why are you throwing shots at me? Grand Rising, Queen. You're like, why are you throwing all these shots at me? I'm just trying to love you. Right? So we have to cultivate a certain way of seeing the world within us. That's the only way we can communicate with love and compassion. So practice this. Look, I want you to see every other human being as you, and see what tools you're going to use. Will you use tools to destroy yourself if you looked at every other thing as part of you in a way? No, you would have so much more love for them. Now that's if you have love for you. Is what I mean. If you know that this other human being, just like you experience shame, they experience shame. If you know they might be going through that experience, why would you inflict the tools on them that makes them shameful? I mean, you know how that feels. If you know how anger feels like, why would you want to stir up anger within you, first of all? Because you won't be hurt for your anger, you're going to be hurt by it. And then, second of all, why would you give them that unfortunate gift of anger? Right? So, anger does not help any of the parties. So let's keep reading the book. This was a really good book. It says, throughout the day, we produce energies of thought, speech, and actions. We're communicating in every moment, either with ourselves or with others. Thinking, speech, and bodily acts are our own manifestations. So based on the book, The Art of Communicating by Thich Nhat Hanh, got a whole book review on my YouTube. So make sure you check that out. Is these three things we want you to remember: thought, speech, and bodily and actions. Okay, so let me give you an example of how a resentment can come to you ignoring somebody, or a thought of this person is annoying can lead to a speech, resentful speech, into an action of full resentment. Or it could be different. So here's an idea: somebody tells you to do something, this person is always getting on me. This person is always getting on me. There's something wrong with them. This person is always getting on me. What's wrong with them? This person is always getting on me. What's wrong? Now, I'm saying this not because I omit myself from it, because I've been in that shoes many times. So it's not saying I've never been this, it's saying I've done this so much, I know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's why I'm credible, because I've been on both sides of the point. So it's like this person done this person done that. You thinking, you're thinking, you're thinking. Now you speak. Why you always, why you sometimes, why you never? And now you act in a way that is resentful. So that comes out, becomes an energy. Now you try to speak with love. It doesn't come out. You speak with resentment. That's because whatever you're thinking will become what you speak out, and your actions will somehow subconsciously happen to fulfill the first manifestations of the two. So every time we communicate, we either produce more compassion, love, or harmony, or produce more suffering. So throughout the day, you might produce energies of thought, speech, and action. You are what you do. You are what you do, not only what you do with your body, but also your words and your mind. Karma is the triple action of your thought, speech, or your bodily action. So you are what you do. The acts that you take, and remember, it's a flow from thought to speech to action, becomes embodied in you. The acts of anger get stored in your liver. It becomes in you. That's what you mean. You are what you do. What you're doing constantly in a way gets housed in you, gets stored. Okay, so when we're talking about this you, we're not necessarily talking about your spirit here. We're just talking about what your body accumulates. The body accumulates and disintegrates, but the spirit does not. Okay, the body accumulates and disintegrates, but the spirit does not. The spirit is. So you're going to accumulate different things in your body, and that will either taint or help your temple. But it is only through your spirit can you transform your body. And that's knowing that you are greater than it. So thinking is already action. Even if you don't see its manifestation, it is a powerful energy. Did you know that if you start thinking that you have a sickness, eventually it will only take a few days for you to start getting sick? What you think literally becomes a reality. So thinking itself is an action. Thought is an action. Most of the things that you see here started from the first action of thought before it was a physical something that they did. So you're like, every thought will bring about a fruit, sometimes right away, sometimes later on. I heard this amazing truth that resonated with me forever. Listen to this. This says in the book, every thought will bring an action, sometimes right away, sometimes. Here's the thing. It takes longer for little steps that are chipping away at your happiness, joy, what's available for you now. It takes little things. And you do that long enough, you won't even notice as it accumulates up until it's like, whoa, dang, until you have to do something. Trust me, some people go 50 years like this, never notice it. Never notice that, oh shit, I'm whatever. They don't even know it. Okay. But it seems like certain things come back right away. Some things, they just take much longer. But certain things come back right away. Like there's some actions that, let's say you try to punch somebody, trying to do bad like that, they're going to smack you. If you don't get you're going to get that punch back, maybe, maybe not. But when we punch ourselves in the mouth or in the head or in the throat, it doesn't seem to come back right away. It seems to be absorbed, stored, and it waits for it to come up. And when it comes up, it just grabs you by the neck and starts choking you. You know, sometimes that's an anxiety, panic attack. So that's just a way of saying havoc does not always come back right away. Havoc sometimes, like the continuation of your thinking, it sometimes accumulates until it starts to disintegrate your body. I hope I didn't confuse you there. When you produce a thought of hate, anger, or despair, that thought is poison. It will affect your body and mind. A thought of hatred can lead one person to hurt another. A poisonous thought hurts you from your insides, and then it can actually cause hurt on the outside. This is why thought is an action. Because when you start thinking hate, you're literally creating black bile in you. You're literally stirring up chemicals in you that makes you feel the hate, enraged. You feel the heat. You can feel your emotions because they're happening as a sensation, as a secretion. Okay, emotions happen as secretions that become sensations. So somebody says, I feel stress. Did you know that that's a secretion causing the sensation? The secretion of cortisol causing the sensation. Somebody says, I feel like I can't sit still. I need to move. The secretion of adrenaline says, move, 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 causes a sensation of unsettledness. So secretions leads to sensation, all started by a way of being and a way of operating in the world. But here's the opposite of creating thoughts that cause havoc in the body. You can actually produce thoughts that's full of understanding, forgiveness, and compassion. And that will leave a healing effect on both your physical and mental health of those around you. Now, what if you made it a habit to produce thoughts of understanding and forgiveness? Even when you don't want to. You don't always want to do this stuff, trust me. Sometimes you really want to give somebody a piece of your mind, but just remember this. By giving them a piece of your mind, you're giving them a piece of the land on your mind. And by that, they're taking mental real estate and they're not even paying rent. And the only way to evict them is to forgive them. Can I get a hello for that one? Somebody says, I want to give them a piece of my mind. I want to let them know how I feel. I want to express to them my anger. So you go, you say, why you sometimes, you never. They take a log and they say, you know what, you want to fight me? I'm going to fight you right back. So they start hitting you in the head. You hitting them in the head, you're hitting that. Now you both got a headache. Nothing has been solved. You just add fire to the fire. Right? Call Adele to the rescue. Okay? So we adding fire to the fire only creates more fire. So somebody says, this all sounds cute. I like it. I know, but is it practical for me? Can I actually do this? Well, I want to say you can, okay? But just because you can doesn't mean you won't. I just want to say it like that, okay? Just because you can show thoughts of understanding, forgiveness, compassion, doesn't mean you won't show thoughts of hate, anger, and desire to punish. It just means you know that you can. If you know you can have great food, why would you go and have leftovers? Okay, if you know you can create a new meal today that will feed you, your family, and future generations, why would you go and eat up the food that was 5 years ago in the fridge? Okay, so this is what people do. They can give fresh fruits and vegetables of love, forgiveness, and understanding to people they love, including themselves. But you know what most people do, including myself at times? They go in the fridge, they look up, they're like, yo, let me find the rotten food. They're like, okay, I can't wait to find this rotten food because I've been waiting. I've been waiting to put this food out because I've been meaning to give you a piece of my mind. So he says, you put this tomato in this fridge 3 years ago. Look, you ain't never did nothing to this goddamn tomato. Now the tomato. But you don't care about the tomato. What you want to do is you want to make some soup. You try to make soup. You want the soup of love, the warmth of the soup of love. That's all we want. So, but now we're complaining about the doggone tomato. When if you came up and said, honey, you know what? These tomatoes have been in the fridge for the longest. Why are we focusing on this rotten tomato? Can we go to the grocery store and get us some new fruits and vegetables? Because all I want to do is have soup with you. I don't want to complain and argue about this tomato. And guess what? Most likely than not, the person might say, hey, I'm sorry I forgot the tomato in the fridge, but you know what? We can go and get some more tomatoes. Because I really want to have soup with you. All my life, all I ever wanted to do was keep cooking the soup with you. Right? Whether I have tomato or not, I know this soup is going to be beautiful because you're in it. Now, that's just an analogy to say a lot of times we complain about what's missing or what we don't have. We don't appreciate what is already there and what we can actually create. And instead of going back and talking about rotten fruits, we can actually go to the garden and pick up new fresh ones. Just like the garden, like instead of seeing what's on the floor and has fallen, look up into the sky. and see that there are flowers. And even if there's no fruits on the tree, just know that each fruit will come in its own season. This is where understanding love and compassion comes from. Because it's not just seeing what is and saying, ah, because of this, I'm happy. It's saying what is it, and in spite of it says, because there is a cycle to life, and I have faith, and there's a grace, and there's a cycle of life, I believe that I will be able to cook up the soup because I will find the fruits I need. Thinking is the first kind of action because our thinking is the basis for how we affect the world. Our speaking also has a huge effect. If we're capable of speaking and writing with compassion and understanding, we feel wonderful in our bodies and in our minds. We don't speak with compassion just so that the person or people we're talking to will feel better. Our compassionate speech has a healing effect on us too. After you've been able to say something kind, forgiving, compassionate, you feel so much better. So somebody wants to know, Ed, why should I be compassionate? I don't even like them. I don't like them. I don't want to be compassionate. I hate them. You know, they get on my nerves. Why are you letting them get on your nerves? Your nerves determine how you feel. Your nerves tells you what's happening. If I touch, it's the nerve that's gonna tell me. If you let them touch your nerve, they determine how you feel. That's deep. Your nerves, when you're in pain, that's what lets you know. Why would you let them get control of that? So you don't let them get on your nerve because you understand how important they are. Because as soon as they get on your nerves, that they're gonna get in your muscles too. And long enough, they're gonna get in your organs. Somebody wanna know how are they gonna do that? Because when you house an emotion against them, you're housing the emotion in you. That's the only way you hold it against them. You heard that? Yo, people need to be watching this stuff because this is gold. You hold something in your heart. You ever heard this? You hear this all of the time. I'm holding this person in. Why are you doing that? Explain to me. All right, I meet Johnny. Johnny is talks a lot. Johnny only talks sugar, honey, iced tea. For some reason, that's the only thing Johnny talks. And this person is not going to change right now. This is how they are. What I'm doing is I'm seeing how Johnny is. I'm like, man, Johnny, why are you like that? You shouldn't be like that. You should all over Johnny. Now you hold Johnny in your heart. Everywhere you go, you're carrying Johnny, thinking about why Johnny talks so much. Now, even when you don't see Johnny, Johnny is in your head. Johnny has taken over your mind. So when you write words of full compassion and forgiveness, you feel better, even if the person you're writing to hasn't read them yet. So listen, try to write letters of forgiveness, even if it's on paper, even if you say it, even if it's a thought process. You have to release it because what you hold in you, you're holding against you. The third form of action is bodily action. We communicate with our body language, but with also our larger action. If you're able to do something in the line of saving, supporting, protecting, comforting, rescuing, or caring, there is a positive effect right away. So sometimes we need to be compassionate for their own sake, loving for our own sake, compassionate for our own sake, because it will make you feel better. Everything we say or do bears our signature. We can't say, that's not my thought. We're, we're responsible for our own communication. So it happened yesterday. I said something that wasn't right. I have to do something today to transform it. The French philosopher Jean-Pierre Sartre said, man is the sum of all his actions. The value of our lives depends on the quality of our thinking, speech, or action. We want to offer the best kind of thinking, the best kind of speech, and the best kind of bodily acts, because those acts are our continuation. When we think, we speak. When we act, we create. And what we are there in our creation, that is the outcome of our being. So deep. When we think, we speak. When we act, we create. And in there's creations is the outcome of our being. So if we wake up and we think against the world, we're going to speak against the world. We're going to act against the world. And everything we create will be against the world. In our creations, our outcome was that we spent our whole lives being against the world. Hence, we played out the song, It's Me Against the World. But when we think with the world, when we speak of the world, in the world, and we're like, we're with you, the world, we act for the world. And what we create in the world is for the world, and therefore we created a better world. When we think positive and loving and compassionate about those we love, we speak love and compassion, and we speak positivity, and we build them up. So we act in a way that is loving and compassionate, and we do things to help build them up. So we create a beautiful synchrony and companionship and love and energy, that in that creation there is an outcome of your being. And that continuation continues in the people that you've been with. So even when you pass away, those thought that became a speech, that became an act, continues to live on the persons you impacted for millenniums to come. Mm. So whatever you're thinking now, that you're speaking now, that you act upon now, will create a certain thing, and that certain thing is going to be your legacy. So somebody says, I don't know if I want to change. I want to ask you, how do you want to live on? Most of us, we think, man, I don't really care about what they think. But none of us, we want to die. We want to live. And even when we die, we want to continue living. And the place that we live is not in the world when we pass away. We live in hearts. We live in minds. So how we live in our own minds, and how we speak out of our own mouths, and how we act with our lives, is how we're going to create a version of us that's going to live in somebody's heart forever. That's going to live in the hearts of generations. And not only in the hearts as it relates to, I love you and I think of you and I honor you, but in the DNA of the generation. The very things you think of and speak out and act out on is going to, in fact, impact somebody's mental state, which will impact the way their cells are, which will impact their epigenetics, which will impact the kids. I am literally impacting your mind, which will impact the way you communicate, which will impact the way you act, which will impact what you create, which will then impact your kids and your kids' kids. In a way, even if it's a little fragment of, so that means you have that much power. So if you woke up empowered and you said, hey, how do I help this person suffer less and help them? And how can I bring out the outcome of my being? How can I make that pleasant? Like when I'm walking around, I know I have a certain vibration. So I want it for my very energy to be pleasant, to create pleasantness around me. Your thought bears your own signature. We are like the cloud that produces the rain. Thought the rain, the cloud continues to affect the crops, the trees, the rivers, even after the cloud is no longer floating there in the sky. And if we're just like, yo, I am like a cloud that produces the rain, and every day we're just like thunderstorm of destruction, and we're not raining. Even when you express yourself, you can either express yourself in thunderstorms and lightning strikes, or you can express yourself like rain. Rain comes very pleasantly. It could come really fast. Rain itself can cause destruction, but when done in a controlled fashion, rain is fueling. Rain sprouts a garden. Same way, when you express yourself, it's like raining. It's like crying. Now, you don't just get storms when you're blaming, when you're shaming, when you're using tools. You are expressing, you're saying, this is what's in me, let me let it come out. And by doing that in its own, it is healing. That's why when you cry out emotions, that is very healing. Even hugging somebody and crying with them is very healing. Even when you say no words, So the cloud produces the rain. So the rain that we produce can either be I'm just expressing how I'm feeling, or it can be I'm expressing me to you because I know me can help you feel a little bit more intensely and present. So while I'm here, my presence itself, I want to give you the gift of me. What if we thought about that? I'm around you. I'm like, how can I give this person me as a gift today? It transforms the way you think and talk. Even if this person gives you that tool of anger, you just look at them, be like, I love you. I don't want to give you that. I know you're giving that to me, but I don't want it, and I don't want to give it back to you, even if you're giving it to me. So imagine there is a bank account somewhere you deposit every word, thought, and physical action. How rich would you be, or how poor would you be? Okay. Suppose in the past you said something unkind to your grandmother. Now she is no longer alive, so you can apologize to her. Many of us carry the guilt of something we said or done. We think we can't rectify, rectify, make right. But it's possible to erase the unskillfulness of the past. The past isn't exactly gone. If we know our communication continues, then we know the past is still there, disguised in the present moment. After all, the suffering is still there. You can touch it. So the author is talking about psychological time. Just because a moment has passed and it's time doesn't mean psychologically the moment has passed. A lot of times, the moment does not pass until the moment of forgiveness happens. So sometimes we think we're past the situation, but we haven't forgave it, so the situation psychologically still remains. So what you can do is sit down, breathe in and out deeply, and recognize in every cell of your body there is a presence of your grandmother. Grandma, I know that you are in every cell of my body. I know your continuation. I am your continuation. I am sorry that I said something to make you suffer and made me suffer. Please listen, Grandma. From now on, I won't say such a thing to anyone anymore. Accept me in this practice. When you talk to your grandmother like that, you can see her smiling to you, and you heal the suffering of the past. Communication isn't static. Even if yesterday you produced a thought of anger and hate, today you can produce the opposite direction, a thought of compassion and tolerance. As soon as we produce a new thought, it can verily catch up to yesterday's thought and neutralize it. Using right communication today can help us heal the past, enjoy the present, and prepare ground for the future. I want you to hear this. Using good communication today can help heal the past, enjoy the present, and prepare ground for the future. Healing the past, enjoying the present, and preparing for a good future. It's tending to the garden. And what that means is to heal the past. Whatever the dirt is, whether it's sandy, a lot of times you just have to put your in it, and the shit will fuel the dirt. I'm not even gonna start omitting the curse word. Let me just put the curse word. You just have to put your shit in the ground, no matter how the ground is. Whether it's sandy, whether it's deficient, whether you're like, I can't build nothing here, just put that shit down. The shit I'm talking about is all the stuff that in your life has accumulated, has backed you up. Just put that shit down. And what I mean that express that shit, write that shit, do something with that shit, okay? And that becomes compost. So compose your thoughts and express them. Compose your pain and shit in it. Compose your pain and shit in it. Compose your pain and shit in it. That's all you did. And then from there, that will start to neutralize certain things. That will allow you to enjoy the present. Now, after you put your shit down in the ground, you let that become compost, composing a new version of you. Just walk on the ground, barefoot, ground yourself. Okay? This is just enjoying the present, being in tune with what is. So sometimes you gotta put the shit on the ground and walk on the shit. Hey, this makes sense to me. I don't know if it makes sense to you. I got all the analogies. So you put your pain on the ground, you ground yourself, and you find peace in being on top of it, not being in it. Because you took the shit from you out. And those who know that this goes much deeper than a psychological concept. It's physical, it's detox everything. So now that will allow you to prepare the ground for a good future. Wow. So you're like, put your shit down, walk on the ground. This allows you to prepare the ground. Now somebody says, what do I mean by that? If you say, I'm going to stop producing thoughts of anger and hate and resentment, and say, I'm going to start to produce a thought of compassion and a form of tolerance for those I love, as soon as you produce a new thought, it can very quickly catch up to yesterday's thought and neutralize it. So whatever you were thinking, and if you really intentionally put in every cell of your body how much you love, and you're going to show compassion, it can neutralize it. It helps you heal the past, enjoy the present, and prepare the ground for a good future, with all acts being one and separate. So that's my message, and I'm sticking to it. The Art of Communicating by Thich Nhat Hanh, Chapter 8 review. Our communication is our continuation. If you want to live on in the world, if you want to find purpose in how you live, communicate better with compassion and love, and I promise you, you will never be forgotten. Not only by those you communicated with love and compassion towards, but that all resonates. Okay, so I said how you cultivate is how you're going to continue. The Your communication is the continuation of your self cultivation. Your communication is the continuation of your self cultivation, and what you've communicated will be what continues you. Will be the continuation of you. Whatever you say is how you're going to be seen, and it's how they're going to keep seeing you up until you change what you say. But first, change what you say to yourself, what's available for you, how you can communicate. And from that point on, you start to exude a certain energy inside, and it will continue outside of you. Extend your self cultivation outside of yes communication. Extend the love in you. Whatever you have in is what you're going to be able to give out. So create that community review. I know it added tremendous value to you, and you can actually tap into the other chapters as well. I'm putting out those book reviews for everybody else. It's supposed to be only for the tribe, but I said I'm gonna put them out for other people too, so you can tap in. Just the book reviews. It's on my YouTube. Go to the Holistic Motivator. By the way, let me do a quick promo. Y'all check this stuff out. The Holistic Motivator on YouTube. Go subscribe. Go subscribe to my podcast, Ed Talks Daily Personal Growth and Motivation. And one last thing, join me for Rising Prime. Me and the tribe, we have a class called a rising routine called Rising Prime. The best way to start your day with a powerful rising routine. It includes mindful movement, personal development, affirmations, and we discuss books. We talk about spiritual concepts. It is a a rising retreat in your house every day. And all you have to do is go to riseandprime.co or the holisticmotivator.com, and you'll be able to tap into Rise and Prime. With that being said, y'all stay blessed, stay wonderful, stay amazing, stay pleasant, stay in compassion, understanding, and learn to tolerate a little bit the people you love. With that being said, peace, and I'll see you next time.